Incredible transformation, CEO discovers hidden story of struggling mom buying diapers with last. Alex Hartman strode confidently through the local grocery store, accustomed to the buzz of recognition that trailed behind him. As the CEO of a thriving tech startup, he was used to navigating bustling environments with ease. But what he witnessed in the diaper aisle sent a jolt through him. There, in stark contrast to his polished world, was a mother named Maria, her shoulders hunched, desperation flooding her features as she counted the last of her coins. The wailing of her newborn sliced through the air, raw and real, starkly interrupting the tidy facade of his life. For the first time, the gravity of his privilege hit him hard. His stomach tightened, not just with concern for the woman before him but with a dawning realization: what was success if it turned a blind eye to the struggles of those around him? Who was he to label himself a leader in a world where motherhood meant constant sacrifice and survival weighed down every decision? The image of Maria stuck, haunting him like a song he couldn't shake off. Days passed. Each morning, the weight of her life pressed against his conscience. Alex felt a pang of guilt as he strolled through the gleaming halls of his office, surrounded by the latest innovations and discussions about the next big move in tech. He found himself unable to focus, her story echoing in his mind. A man of numbers, he oscillated between helplessness and an emerging empathy he struggled to understand. How could he, with his tailored suits and boardroom meetings, possibly relate to the sleepless nights and laborious days of a woman clinging to survival? His curiosity morphed into a determination to understand. He began to research the struggles of low-income families, finding countless stories similar to Maria's, lives straining under the weight of financial constraints. The anger and sadness washed over him, a storm of conflicting emotions. He felt guilt for his success. Was it built on the backs of those who struggled? Yet, this newfound compassion ignited a sense of purpose within him. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a new fire ignited, Alex launched a mentorship program designed to support low-income families. His vision was bold, pushing him to confront the board about priorities beyond profits. But as he navigated this path, the air in the boardroom thickened with skepticism. Shareholders eyed him with crossed arms and raised eyebrows, their focus on profit margins, dismissing his vision as idealistic. Was he losing touch with reality? Questions turned over in his mind like a boiling pot, demanding answers. Was he prepared to risk the empire he'd built on the very principle of bottom lines? Each board meeting chipped away at his conviction, internal conflict sparking an agonizing pressure in his chest. Maria's face became emblematic of every decision. What did being a leader truly mean in a world so divided? Just as Alex felt the walls closing in, he caught a flicker in his heart. Was this the right fight after all? The board was about to make a decision that could derail everything he'd worked for, and the tension vibrated in the air. Would he abandon his newfound purpose for the sake of corporate approval? The moment lay heavy with consequences, and as the debate roared around him, Alex's resolve intensified. A reckoning was coming. Would he summon the strength to stand for what was right, even if it meant losing everything? The board discussion escalated into a cacophony of disparate opinions, each voice layered with frustration and disbelief. Alex felt the weight of judgment in every scornful glance cast his way. There was Leon, the chief financial officer, his face etched in disbelief, questioning Alex's shift from fiscal prudence to altruism. This isn't a charity, Alex. We have shareholders to think about, Leon stated, his voice dripping with skepticism. Alex's heart raced as he searched for a way to articulate his vision amid the onslaught. But what's our purpose if we don't contribute to the broader community? Our success has to mean something beyond profits. The words poured out of him, trembling with urgency, a force internally pressing to redefine success itself. He'd begun to see it not as an isolated trophy polished atop a pedestal, but as fuel, a means to elevate others. Yet doubt gnawed at him. What if his attempts to weave empathy into the corporate fabric were futile? Was he inviting chaos into an organization built on structure? As board members exchanged uneasy glances, questioning his commitment, a long silence enveloped the room. It was a chilling testament to the enormity of what he proposed. Deep within, uncertainty blossomed like weeds, threatening to choke his passionate resolve. Returning home that evening, Alex collapsed into an armchair, heart pounding with the turmoil of a simmering storm inside. The portraits of corporate accolades hung on his walls like relics, distorting his sense of identity. He stared at his reflection in the glass, grappling with the realization that he was navigating uncharted waters alone, the current sweeping him away from everything he'd ever identified as success. In those quiet moments, flashes of Maria's struggle ignited his motivation anew. A sharp pang gnawed at him when he thought of her grateful but weary eyes, trapped in the relentless cycle of survival. He couldn't shake the image, it spiraled into a renewed sense of determination. For the first time, he understood that true leadership wasn't about mere metrics or shareholder approval. It encompassed the lives that intertwined with his corporate triumph. He started sketching ideas late into the night, visualizing partnerships that could elevate families like Maria's from the shadows of poverty, inspiriting long-term foundational changes. Each thought was a potential pathway to real impact, but also came with the daunting challenge of convincing his board. The following week would be critical. They would discuss the new initiative, and if he was to stand his ground, every ounce of his courage would be tested. As the hours passed, he finally drifted into a restless sleep, his mind racing with diagrams of opportunity. The next morning, resolve surged through him. Alex knew that the moment was approaching. He planned to return to the boardroom with a proposal that intertwined corporate responsibility with robust, tangible benefits. The word integrate echoed in his mind. Integrate purpose with profits, align societal needs with corporate assets. His employee base was talented, dedicated, they could become changemakers. If he could rally them into a movement, perhaps this venture would provide a model for others, a blueprint perhaps. But deep within, fear pulsed beneath the excitement. What if they rejected him again? What if Leon and the others saw him as a meddler rather than a visionary? The pressure had never felt so intense, yet, the thought of Maria and countless others like her flickered in his heart, grasping it firmly. As he approached that pivotal board meeting, Alex felt the weight of a decision pressing down harder than any financial crisis ever had. It was more than a proposal, it was a defining moment about who he wanted to be. Would he have the courage to confront the doubts within himself and the resistant walls of the boardroom, or would he falter, surrendering his fervor and risks for the safety of corporate tradition? The stakes were rising, and he could sense the impending confrontation. The time had come to face what being a leader truly meant. As Alex stepped into the boardroom, the air felt thick with anticipation. The polished oak table gleamed under fluorescent lights, a stark reminder of the sterile environment that had stifled so many innovative conversations. He took his place at the head of the table, heart pounding like a war drum. Today was the day he would lay everything on the line. He looked around the room, taking in the familiar faces: investors, directors, and the ever-skeptical Leon. The moment demanded clarity. "Thank you, everyone, for being here today," he began, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of nerves beneath. "I know we have an agenda to discuss, but first, I want to share a vision." He outlined his proposal, intertwining corporate responsibility with profit generation in a way that felt both urgent and transformative. As he spoke, the words flowed with an unexpected conviction. He articulated how focusing on community engagement could yield resilient partnerships and a more compassionate brand image. Each argument was fortified with statistics on consumer preferences for socially responsible companies, reinforcing his credibility. Yet, as he continued, Alex felt a creeping unease. Leon was listening, furrowing his brow, arms crossed tightly across his chest. Alex pressed on, recounting Maria's story, detailing it not just as a narrative of struggle, but as a powerful testament to the potential that lay dormant in their community. He painted a picture where employees could engage voluntarily with local families facing hardship, transforming the company into something more than just a profit generator. As he concluded, silence enveloped the room. He held his breath, anticipating the flood of questions. Finally, Leon leaned forward, his voice slicing through the tension. "Alex, it sounds nice in theory, but how do you propose we balance this with our financial goals? What's the return on investment? The bottom line must remain our priority." Alex felt a flush of frustration at Leon's predictable skepticism. "Leon, what I'm proposing isn't about replacing our financial goals, it's about integrating them. A company that truly values its community will see loyalty, lower turnover rates, and increased customer engagement. It's about cultivating a culture where profit and purpose don't just coexist but mutually enhance each other." Yet as soon as he finished speaking, doubt crept back in. Was he really making sense? Would his colleagues view him as deluded, chasing after a dream at the expense of their concrete objectives? He searched their faces for signs of agreement or dissent, his pulse quickening with the weight of uncertainty. The conversation that followed demanded everything from him. He was pressed on budgets, delving into details he used to brush aside. There were moments when he felt the confidence waver, his answers becoming less assured as they countered with practical concerns. But amidst the chaos of conflicting views, sparks of synergy ignited occasionally. A few board members expressed interest, intrigued by the corporate social responsibility data he had provided. As the meeting progressed, Alex began to recognize something within himself, a newfound resilience. The fear of dismissal transformed into a driving force. He was not just defending an idea, but challenging a long-standing paradigm. The conflict within him began to shift from self-doubt to conviction. By the time the meeting concluded, he was exhausted but invigorated. The board had not made any definitive decisions, but they had committed to a deeper discussion, a small win that propelled him forward. As he exited the building, a glimmer of determination sparked within him. Now that he had faced the board, he understood the struggle lay not merely in convincing his colleagues, but in preparing himself for continued resistance. His journey was far from over. It would require ongoing strategy, relentless perseverance, and the steady belief that he could be the change he envisioned. But beyond the boardroom, the real test loomed. The deeper he dove into his commitment, the greater the risk responsible leadership would demand of him. The question reverberated in his mind as he walked to his car: how much was he willing to sacrifice for a vision that some might never see? As he sat behind the wheel, he felt an unsettling but unmistakable excitement course through him. He was ready to engage an impending challenge that was not just professional but profoundly personal. What was the cost of true leadership? The next phase of his evolution had just begun. Alex's mind raced as he drove home, thoughts colliding like cars in a junction. The boardroom exchange had left him exhausted yet exhilarated. As the engine hummed beneath him, he felt the weight of the decisions to come pressing down. This wasn't merely about statistics and forecasts, it was about real lives, and somewhere in that truth lay his own reflection. He pulled into his driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel. The sight of his house, a comfortable cocoon in which he had often felt at peace, now felt like a cage restraining what he was evolving into. He stepped inside, greeted by the familiar scent of coffee and the soft sound of his son engaging with a game on his tablet. That simple sight brought a moment of clarity and innocent joy that contrasted sharply with the complexities of his corporate aspirations. "Hey, Dad!" his son called, snapping Alex from his reverie. "Did you win your meeting?" "We made some progress," he replied, forcing a smile despite the churn of uncertainty inside him. Engaging with his son provided a brief respite from his inner turmoil, a reminder of what truly mattered. But even as laughter echoed in the background, doubt lingered. What kind of legacy was he building? Later that evening, as the house grew quiet, Alex sat alone in his study, the flickering light from his laptop casting shadows around him. He reviewed his notes from the meeting, dissecting responses and searching for threads of insight he hadn't fully grasped during the back and forth. New strategies began to form in his mind, possibilities unfurling like pages of an unwritten script. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his concentration. A message from Leon buzzed through on his phone. "Let us reconsider your stats. I think we need a clearer plan of action moving forward before investing in this direction." That simple text ignited a firestorm within him. Leaning back in his chair, he felt an intense mix of frustration and determination. Leon's questions, while daunting, illuminated a crucial point: they needed not only a vision but a roadmap to navigate the murky waters ahead. That realization crystallized an idea within him. He wouldn't merely react to resistance, but anticipate it. With purpose, Alex began drafting a comprehensive plan that connected core business metrics to community engagement strategies. He wanted to show them that investing in lives did not detract from their bottom line but rather enhanced it. His fingers danced over the keys, creating a blend of budgets, goals, and projections that factored in not just profit margins, but also the palpable impact they could make. Days turned into nights as Alex immersed himself deeper into research, identifying potential partnerships and resources. He reached out to local organizations, digging into their experiences and leveraging their insights to build a more informed proposal. The stories of lives woven through corporate agendas began to feel not just compelling, but inevitable. He felt himself growing, transforming into a leader not just seeking to make profits, but to forge connections. As the new plan took shape, he discovered an unexpected thrill in collaborating, listening, engaging, and envisioning possibilities with others who dared to dream alongside him. Each moment of interaction imbued him with new perspectives, expanding his worldview. He realized that the task ahead wasn't just to persuade his peers, but to inspire them, to awaken a sense of shared purpose. However, the excitement of progress was met with rising tension. The upcoming board meeting loomed like storm clouds. Were they ready for him? The stakes had shifted from his own ambition to the lives of those he began to champion. Maria's community, the stories he had gathered, the potential for change now depended on how well he communicated this to people like Leon. As he stood before the mirror, preparing for the next round, Alex understood that this was no ordinary board meeting. It was a battle for belief, for a vision he had now not only embraced but embodied. The stakes were personal and profound, pushing him to confront not just opponents at the table, but the remnants of his own self-doubt. What would happen this time? Would they embrace his vision, or would he walk away with yet another defeat? The weight of the upcoming confrontation pressed against his chest like a brick. The moment had arrived to face not only his colleagues but the limits of his convictions. Could he stand firm in the eye of the storm, or would he falter amidst the winds of skepticism? The morning of the meeting arrived, dawning overcast yet tinged with a flicker of hope. Alex stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, each pull and tug echoing the internal struggle that churned within. Today was pivotal not just in the boardroom but in the very essence of who he was becoming. He felt a rising tide of urgency. The hour had come to translate his convictions into tangible impact. As he entered the conference room, Alex's heart thumped in synchrony with the ticking clock on the wall. The familiar faces of his colleagues greeted him, but behind their smiles lay skepticism. They sensed the shift within him, and he understood they were waiting for him to falter, to provide them with reasons to retreat to the comfort of traditional metrics. The thought of disappointing them was like a weight lodged deep in his chest, but today he wouldn't allow it to anchor him. Taking a breath, he launched into his presentation, meticulously outlining his proposal. The slides visualized more than just profit, they portrayed the personal stories that threaded through the statistics. He spoke of Maria, the mother struggling to provide for her children, painting a vivid picture of the lives intertwined with their corporate decisions. Could they look at the numbers without seeing the faces behind them? As slides flicked on and off, expressions around the table shifted from curiosity to intrigue. He encapsulated the broader impact of their choices, intertwining corporate growth with the empowerment of communities. His voice, steadied by purpose, carried an emotion he had never revealed before. It was vulnerability, an openness to connect with them not just as colleagues but as fellow human beings. But Leon's voice cut through the atmosphere like a knife. These are compelling stories, Alex, but do they translate into feasible outcomes? We need hard data. The risks are high. The challenge hung in the air, cracking the tentative bond they had formed. It was a direct confrontation, and for a moment, doubt crawled back into his mind, gnawing at the edges of his confidence. Had he misread them? Refusing to buckle, Alex reminded himself of the purpose fueling his journey. "We can gather that data," he replied, infusing resolve into his words. "But if we let fear dictate our decisions, we will miss the very opportunities that can redefine our legacy. It's not just about numbers, it's about humanity. We can lead the way for change, and in turn, achieve sustainable growth." With each statement, Alex felt the remnants of his insecurity peel away. He was no longer merely defending his idea, he was asserting his identity: a leader, a visionary, someone striving to forge a legacy that resonated beyond spreadsheets. Tension rippled through the room as his colleagues exchanged glances, weighing the weight of his conviction against the numbers they had always trusted. Gone were the moments of peripheral engagement. Alex had become both a storyteller and an arbiter of truth, urging them to see a future shaped by empathy. But as he drove home, a sense of unease lingered. Had he made the case compelling enough? Could he have done more to underscore the urgency of aligning business with real community impact? He arrived home and greeted his son, yet his attention was split. The echo of Leon's skepticism rattled in his mind. He sat in his study late into the night, digging deeper into the metrics, preparing to reinforce his case. The following day called for another meeting with the board, a chance for elaboration and defense. He realized he needed to anticipate further resistance and be ready to counter with undeniable evidence. But it was more than just facts, it was about igniting the flames of conviction in their hearts. What would happen when he returned to the board? Would he finally win their belief, or had he merely stirred the pot of skepticism even more? The road before him twisted with uncertainty, yet one thing became clear: he was not turning back. The time had come to face both the potential rejection and the transformative potential. That came not only with success but also with the personal development of his mission. The day unfolded with its own peculiar intimacy, the early morning light cloaked in gray mist, as Alex prepared for the second board meeting that would change everything. The tension from the previous day lingered like a stubborn, overripe fruit, threatening to spoil the potential sweetness of success. He stood once more in front of the mirror, mentally repeating a mantra: "You are the architect of your own narrative." Arriving at the office, he could feel the weight of expectation on his shoulders. The prospect of being further scrutinized hung palpably in the air, yet it also sparked a fire within him. During his commute, he replayed Leon's critique, dissecting it with quiet intensity. This time, armed with the data he painstakingly gathered, he felt the balance shift. His resolve solidified. He was no longer merely a challenger of ideas, he was a champion for change. As Alex walked into the conference room, he noticed his team's expressions: anxious, but also hopeful, their eyes glinting with curiosity. Returning to the topic was no longer just about proving a point, it was about unearthing a deeper truth that went beyond financial earnings. He had a vision, and it was encapsulated in more than just numbers. He allowed himself a brief moment to gather that daunting energy into focus. "Thank you all for being here again," he began, his voice steadier than it had ever been. "Today, I'd like to introduce not just data but a potential movement, a bridge connecting our business to the very soul of our community." He was met with slight nods, but Leon's cocked eyebrow remained a silent challenge at the far end of the table. Pulling up a slide labeled Impact, he painted a vivid portrait of real people, including Maria, the struggling mother who had become his muse. The figures flashed, but they weren't mere calculations, they reflected the fragile reality for thousands who wore burdens too heavy to see beyond the ledger. "Imagine if we could create a program to benefit people like her while enhancing our brand's reputation," he pressed fittingly, feeling the persuasive energy swell within. As Alex spoke, he noted how the furrowed brows eased among his listeners. A transformation was not just his, it was theirs, too. It didn't matter if Maria was one story among many, it demonstrated a potent truth they could no longer ignore. He glanced at Leon, who had scribbled intently on his notepad, wrestling with the ideas coming to life before him. "Tell me about the risks," Leon interrupted, still pressing hard on the old ways, clinging to comfort. "This sounds good, but how do we quantify the potential like we do with investments?" With a palpable surge of determination, Alex faced that skepticism. He had prepared for this, realizing that addressing Leon wasn't just about defense, it required skillful persuasion. "Every worthwhile venture has risks," he replied, his voice now firm with conviction. "But what if I told you the data supports our potential for a tenfold return by aligning ourselves with community needs? If we lean fully into innovation while upholding our values, we can redefine what success means in our metrics." The room buzzed with tension, the kind that hung thick like fog. He could feel the eyes of his colleagues all focusing on him, grappling with a burgeoning realization. Had they been blind to the narratives intertwined with their successes? The numbers they cherished stood on crumbling foundations without the heartbeat of their community. As the meeting progressed, the dialogue shifted, ideas flowing faster, voltages rising with passion. His colleagues were engaging in a dance of possibility, the floor shifting under their feet as they began to envision a future brimming with purpose. But despite that contagious energy, a gnawing sense of doubt still edged in Alex's mind. Could this truly lead to actionable change? After the meeting, as he stood alone in the empty room, their words echoed. The scent of stale coffee hung in the air, it felt as if the very walls absorbed their conversations, each promising thought a whisper. Bouncing off boundaries. He turned towards the window, gazing out into the overcast sky that mirrored the internal chaos swirling within him. What if their ideas were just air bubbles, fragile and ready to burst upon impact with reality? The moment of triumph came with its own haunting uncertainty. How could he reconcile the exhilarating prospects of collaboration with the daunting reality of the business they must sustain? Would the embrace of empathy fracture under the weight of financial scrutiny, or would it catalyze an extraordinary transformation? The path he carved was filled with steep climbs and jagged turns, but one thing was clear: he wasn't merely riding the currents anymore. He was directing the flow. Yet doubt lingered. The next meeting loomed ahead. Would it mark the genesis of a new chapter or simply a painful reminder of old paradigms? Determined, he exhaled slowly. The answers lay not only in the air before him but in the efforts he was yet to uncover. What hidden capabilities remained untapped within him? And would he uncover the deeper truths of his mission before time ran out? The morning of the next board meeting arrived with a crisp clarity that contrasted sharply against the turmoil roiling within Alex. He had barely slept, his mind a ceaseless whirlpool of thoughts. Insights from the last meeting flickered through his mind, each one a potentially life-altering pivot. The tension of expectation weighed heavier than ever, and within it lay a trepidation that threatened to throttle his resolve. He arrived at the office early, finding solace in the silence that enveloped the empty hallways. With each step he took toward the conference room, however, the peace dissipated like morning mist under the rising sun. Today would be different, he could feel it in his bones. As his team entered, the atmosphere shifted again, an undercurrent of shared anxiety mixed with a tentative excitement. He studied their faces, eyes darting as if they could gauge the upcoming storm. Leaning against the tabletop, he took a deep breath, allowing the ambience of the room to steep in uncertainty before he broke it with his voice. "Let us revisit our direction," he commanded, his tone steady and smooth, almost melodic, countering the chaos that lurked beneath. He observed how even Leon squared his shoulders a little, eager curiosity peeking beneath his skeptical facade. The slides rolled on the projector, reflecting figures and images that spoke volumes about lives intersecting with their corporate narrative. But today, Alex chose not to only present numbers, he wanted to evoke empathy. The essence of our mission is not about profits alone. It's about impact, starting with Maria, a mother who spends her last dollar on diapers to keep her baby comfortable and cared for. He wove her story into their presentation, illuminating stark contrasts between their company's ambitions and the raw realities faced by the community. The data he presented wasn't solely numbers, it was a representation of unfulfilled needs, each statistic a form of desperation calling out for recognition. He could see Leon's eyebrows knit together, caught in a tug-of-war between numbers and narratives. What's the practical benefit here? Leon urged, his voice laced with skepticism yet edged with curiosity. Imagine, Alex replied, leveraging this opportunity to create a product specifically designed to ease the burdens of families like hers, thus creating a larger, untapped market. But it lacks meaning without aligning our values with our actions. We have to ask ourselves not just what we can gain, but what we stand to lose by ignoring these stories. It was a risk, stretching too confidently into the emotional realm where cold metrics once resided. Still, he felt a flicker of hope. What if their fears around financial implications could be eased by genuine impact? The room buzzed, reactions sparked as colleagues began to openly discuss how they could fuse empathy with market strategies. Ideas flowed back and forth like currents, electrifying the atmosphere. Yet beneath the outward excitement, Alex wrestled with inner doubts. Was it enough to change the narrative he had so passionately crafted? He felt his pulse quicken, an echo of uncertainty whispering that these breakthroughs could merely dissipate in the face of institutional inertia. As the meeting concluded, applause filled the room, but Alex remained suspended in an uneasy triumph. He could see possibilities lying tantalizingly ahead, yet the gnawing question still clawed at his thoughts: would they truly embrace this path forward, or would it fall victim to old habits? Standing in the now quiet room, he gazed out the window again, the sun breaking through the clouds, illuminating both the haze of doubt and the bright prospects of change. Would they take the leap with him? What would it take to solidify that shift from talk to tangible action? He felt a surge of determination. Hidden within him was a well of potential that begged to be tapped. Perhaps it was time to confront Leon more directly, face that skepticism head-on. He knew, deep down, that addressing the core of his insecurities was imperative. The real journey was only beginning. As he turned away from the window, a single thought crystallized in his mind: the moment was drawing near when he would demand the clarity he sought not just for himself but for everyone whose futures depended on the decisions made in that room. Would he discover the fierce strength he needed to challenge both Leon and the stagnation that threatened to shackle his vision? The board meeting created an unexpected ripple effect that lingered in Alex's mind. As he walked through the hallways, a blend of exhilaration and trepidation coursed through him. Conversations in the office shifted, he could sense people discussing possibilities he had ignited, exploring paths they were hesitant to traverse before. Yet, despite the applause, the shadow of doubt loomed larger now than it ever had. What would be his next move? Alex felt the weight of leadership embed itself deeper in his chest. He needed a plan, not just for himself but for everyone who trusted him. He sank into his office chair and pulled his laptop closer, the glow of the screen igniting a flicker of inspiration. Pulling together his scattered thoughts, he jotted down potential strategies, initiatives that could reframe their product development around the real stories he had begun to uncover. Each idea resonated, from partnering with local charities for awareness campaigns to developing community-driven feedback loops that would allow real families to inform product design. But a gnawing uncertainty persisted. Would this new direction resonate with the board? Could he transform poignant stories into practical, attractive business models? The creeping skepticism from his colleagues still echoed, especially Leon's incredulity that financial implications could intertwine genuinely with empathy. Alex knew he needed to demonstrate that compassion could create profit just as effectively as any slick advertisement. They were caught in corporate machinations pursuing profit at the expense of humanity, but it didn't have to be that way. As he drafted an email to brainstorm a follow-up session with the team, a flicker of defiance ignited within him. He recalled Maria's story, her struggle, her resilience. If they could truly pivot to embrace this vision, then maybe he could inspire not only change but a deeper sense of purpose among his colleagues. The afternoon sun streamed through his office windows, illuminating the stark contrast between the bright day and the shadows of doubt that haunted him. Perhaps this was the moment to confront Leon not only with ideas but with the genuine emotional gravity of their undertakings. But confrontation had its risks. The prospect terrified him. He shut his laptop and paced the small office, grappling with the converging threads of fear and determination. Each step felt like a struggle against an internal tide. He had to confront not only Leon but also himself. What did it mean to be a leader? To push through challenges where others felt limited? Fueled by desperation to change the narrative, he needed to carve out opportunities for dialogue. So, he decided he wouldn't merely seek out Leon at the next meeting, but invite him for a coffee, away from the barrage of corporate demands. A casual setting where they could openly discuss his vision, the merging of innovative product development with humanity without the chains of the boardroom weighing them down. As Alex dialed the number for Leon's office manager, he felt an unfamiliar mix of anticipation and apprehension swirl within. Would Leon be receptive? Would he see the potential in the ideas Alex was aiming to cultivate? He hoped to convert the skeptic into an ally, but that required patience and careful maneuvering. He hung up, the decision made, yet uncertainty still prickled at his nape. As the day dragged on, the tension twisted tighter. And while he couldn't predict the outcome, he knew this was the kind of challenge he craved, the friction needed for growth. Determination solidified as he left the office late that evening, the fluorescent lights flickering off as he stepped into the dusk. What lay on the horizon was unclear, but one certainty lingered: change would demand honesty, grit, and an openness to engage with conflict, starting with Leon. The time had come to face not only skepticism but also the ghosts of his self-doubt. Would he muster the tenacity required to lead through turbulence, or would fear sabotage his aspirations? As he walked down the empty corridor, each echo of his footsteps reminded him that the path ahead was uncertain yet essential. What awaited when he finally sat down with Leon? Would they transform a moment of doubt into the first step toward real change? The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows as Alex made his way to the coffee shop where he had arranged to meet Leon. His heart raced with the anticipation of their impending conversation, a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbling just beneath the surface. What if this didn't go as planned? What if he couldn't express his vision clearly enough to persuade Leon? The questions gnawed at him with an intensity that felt almost physical. As he entered the cafe, the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans greeted him, momentarily distracting him from his mounting anxiety. He spotted Leon seated in a corner, engrossed in his phone. Alex took a moment to compose himself, desperately trying to quiet the chatter of doubt that seemed to grow louder with each step. "Hey, Leon," he greeted, forcing a casual tone as he slid into the chair opposite him. "Alex," Leon replied, looking up, his expression neutral, possibly curious, but also guarded. I'll keep this short," Alex began. "I wanted to chat about some ideas I had after the board meeting." "More ideas?" Leon raised an eyebrow, skepticism layered within his tone. "You know the board is focused on profitability, right?" Alex could feel the weight of those words pressing down on him. This was not the time to falter or steer the conversation into the familiar path of defensiveness. No, he needed to forge a new one that seamlessly intertwined the objectives of profit with purpose. "Exactly. I want to show how we can align our innovation with meaningful stories, like Maria's." Leon leaned back, arms crossed. "You think empathy can drive sales?" "Yes." Alex's voice rose, surprise igniting in his own reaction. "But it's more than that, it's about connection. People are looking for more than just products, they want to resonate with brands that stand for something." He paused, searching for the right words. "I believe that if we carefully curate our product development around real families' experiences, we can build loyalty and trust, like no advertisement ever could." Intrigued, Leon's demeanor softened slightly. "But how do we measure that?" "Stories are subjective. Imagine incorporating feedback platforms where families can share their testimonials, like how they choose our products during difficult times. Alex couldn't help but glance at Leon's response to gauge the impact. Their stories could guide product design, making them feel part of our process. We could transform how we market ourselves. Leon's guarded exterior was still present, but a flicker of contemplation unveiled itself. You're essentially suggesting that our marketing be driven by human experience? Yes. And that's a shift we can lead. If we show our commitment to supporting them through their struggles, it creates a strong emotional bond. Trust leads to sales. Silence enveloped their table as Leon considered Alex's words. Alex could see the wheels turning in his mind, but fear tugged at his resolve, the fear that age-old corporate barriers would dismiss his vision for a new approach, for a dedication to a more authentic narrative. "What's your plan, then?" Leon finally asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "You present the board with emotional stories, and they suddenly bite?" "No." The suddenness of Alex's response surprised him. "I want to build a solid proposal that combines emotional appeal with financial forecasts. We present comprehensive feedback data alongside these stories, showing a clear angle on profitability grounded in humanity." Leon studied him, a mixture of doubt and curiosity playing across his features. "And you feel confident this will sway the board?" "I need you," Alex said, leaning closer, aiming for sincerity. "Your voice carries weight among them. If together we can lead this conversation, I believe we can challenge the status quo." Underneath the tension, he could sense a shift, an opening perhaps. Would Leon step forward as an ally, or would he retreat into the cynicism that Alex had sought to challenge? In that moment, Alex realized this wasn't just about convincing Leon, it was about pushing himself to confront the inherent conflict within him, the fear of leading, the desire for change, and the deep-seated belief that he could forge a new narrative that would resonate far beyond the confines of their conference room. As they concluded their meeting, Alex could feel a new determination taking root within him, sparking the courage he needed to navigate the turbulent waters of corporate skepticism. Yet, a new question loomed large: would his vision resonate with the board, or would he face the disappointment of resistance? What lay ahead as they prepared for the upcoming meeting would determine the very future of the company and perhaps Alex's own journey as a leader. As dawn broke over the city, Alex Hartman stood at the threshold of the conference room, heart thundering in his chest. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment. In the past, he had been a tech mogul focused solely on profit. Now, he was a leader prepared to prove that genuine empathy could, indeed, drive success. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as board members filed in, murmurs of speculation buzzing through the air. He had shared the vision of intertwining corporate responsibility with profitability in countless meetings. Previously, they had dismissed him as an idealist. But today, armed with an analysis that documented the potential for revenue and community impact, he felt an unwavering resolve coursing through him. "Thank you for joining me today," Alex began, confidence radiating from him. "I know we all want to drive our bottom line forward. Today, I plan to show you how aligning our mission with community needs can triple our market reach." He clicked through slides that illustrated not just numbers but narrative stories of families across the city struggling under financial burdens, tales tied to Maria's reality. As he delivered his presentation, he felt the room's energy shift. Their skepticism morphed into curiosity, and he could see board members leaning in, actively listening. Leon remained at the back, arms crossed, still skeptical. Yet Alex pressed on, feeling propelled by the stories of resilience he had encountered. "It's more than just good PR," he stated, looking directly at Leon. "This is about sustainable growth. By investing in this community, we'll drive loyalty and trust in a way traditional metrics can't capture. Families like Maria's want to connect with brands that consistently show up for them." As he wrapped up, the room erupted into discussions. A sense of momentum surged. Board members debated and probed his ideas, but the tone had changed. An air of genuine engagement replaced rancor. Alex, I see what you're saying, but how do we know? One of the directors challenged. It's simple, he replied, bolstering his argument with comparative metrics from corporations that have succeeded through similar outreach. Brands like us are thriving not only through profit streams but by establishing a bond with their audience. This proposal includes a pilot program to gather data from community engagements. We can iterate based on consumer feedback. We're not just taking a leap of faith. We're building a blueprint for sustainable success. He glanced at Leon, who wore a conflicted expression, the cogs of doubt visibly turning. Would they be willing to accept this transformative vision? The silence that enveloped the room felt eternal, but Alex focused on Maria's story, the stakes that truly mattered. Finally, Leon broke the silence. If we're investing resources into a program like this, we need to define risk and rewards meticulously. I'm willing to work with you on the details, he said slowly, extending an olive branch that felt monumental. Alex swallowed hard, a wave of relief washing over him. This wasn't just a victory for the proposal, it represented a significant shift in the company's culture towards one rooted in acknowledgement and empathy. That would be an incredible step forward, Leon. Together, we can redefine how this organization approaches our community and reveals the unique opportunities to serve them. As the meeting ended, applause replaced doubt, a remarkable response he seldom expected. A few board members approached him, eager to learn how they could further engage with the local community, their initial skepticism giving way to collaboration. Outside the conference room, the glow of fluorescent lights faded into the warmth of early afternoon sun. Alex felt an unfamiliar lightness as he stepped outside. The journey that had begun with a single encounter in a grocery store had culminated in this pivotal transformation. Months later, the initiative would be fully operational, bringing resources, job training, and essential support to low-income families like Maria's. In discerning clarity, Alex courageously embraced his role as a leader, not merely someone managing numbers or expectations, but a person willing to confront and redefine the narrative. He sat back, recognizing that true fulfillment blossomed not just from reliance on data or success in his career but from the lives he impacted. Those moments of connection with the community had illuminated his path, affirming that success could indeed be redefined and achieved through shared purpose and commitment. As he headed home, his heart swelled with pride. He was no longer simply the CEO of a tech company. He had become a champion of change, demonstrating that real achievement stems from harnessing collective strength to uplift those who struggle. Now was the time for his audience to step forward as well. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the channel. Comment below your reactions and theories about this transformative conclusion. Your voice matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey.